Ever thought someone loved you, only to realize you were just their emergency backup plan? Yeah, it's like being the spare tire in someone's life, only useful when everything else goes to shit. You were the center of their world, until you weren't. The moment you stopped being useful to them, they vanished. And just like that, you were left wondering, what the hell just happened? It's funny, right? They loved you until you were no longer useful. But that's the brutal truth. It's like being their favorite toy, until they find something newer, shinier, or more entertaining. That's when you get tossed aside like last season's fashion. And you know what's worse? You didn't even see it coming. Love these days feels like an audition. As long as you're performing, everything is great. But the moment you stop dancing to their tune, you're out. How many times have you felt like the most important person in someone's life, only for them to turn cold the second you stopped being the solution to their problems? It's like they only loved you for your potential, your ability to fix them. Once you stopped being their personal fixer-upper, they were out, fast. Here's the kicker. They didn't love you. Nope, they loved the idea of you. You were their emotional credit card, always there when they needed a little pick-me-up. And once they drained you dry, guess what? They cut the card, and you were left looking at the statement, wondering where the hell it all went wrong. It's like a cruel magic trick, isn't it? They pull you in, make you feel special, tell you all the sweet nothings. And you, poor fool, fall for it, thinking you're loved. But then poof, just like that, may vanish when the magic fades. You didn't even get a thanks for being my emotional ATM before they closed their account. Abracadabra, goodbye. I know it's painful. How could they do this to you? You gave them everything, didn't you? You were their superhero, their confidant, their rock. You were the one they leaned on when they were weak. But the second you became human, guess what? You were replaced faster than a faulty iPhone. And just like that, you were no longer needed. But here's the twist. You were never really needed. You were just a temporary solution, a means to an end. And here's where the dark humor kicks in. It's not your fault. Seriously, you didn't mess up. You just happened to be the person who was there to serve a purpose. You were a tool, a useful one at first. But once they were done using you, you were tossed aside. Just like an expired coupon. And yet, here you are, still reeling, still trying to figure out what happened. But let me tell you something, it wasn't love. It was a business transaction, a bargain. And you were the one who got hustled. But here's the silver lining. You didn't lose, you gained. Because now you know. And once you know the truth, that's when you really start to understand your worth. They didn't love you. They loved what you could do for them. But that's their loss. You're worth so much more than that. You're standing there, looking at the wreckage of your relationship, wondering how it all went wrong. Have you ever had that moment when it hits you like a ton of bricks? They never cared about you the way you thought they did. It's like your whole world just clicks into place and then crashes down around you. For the longest time, you probably thought you were loved, needed. But now you're seeing it for what it really was. You were their lifeline. You were their emotional safety net. The second you stopped being that, you stopped being important. You've been doing it for so long, giving, fixing, sacrificing, that you forgot what it was like to be seen. And now you're standing there, looking at your reflection, and it finally hits. They loved you only as long as you were useful. That's a tough pill to swallow, huh? Here's the moment of realization, the shift that cuts deeper than any breakup. They weren't in love with you. They were in love with the version of you that made their life easier. The version that would bend over backward for them. The version that gave more than they ever took. And when you stopped playing that role, you stopped being valuable. The truth is, you weren't their priority. You were just another chapter in their story. A chapter they could skip when they were done with it. You thought you were irreplaceable, right? You thought, how could anyone walk away from someone who gave so much? But the moment you stopped filling their needs, you were replaced quicker than the next shiny object. But now, the real truth starts to sink in. You weren't a partner to them. You were a tool they used to get through the pain of their own struggles. And once they no longer needed you to play that role, they left. Now the joke's on you. Because for the first time, you realized just how selfish it all was. It wasn't love. It was just convenience, plain and simple. They loved you for your usefulness, not for yourself. And as painful as it is, here's the kicker. You don't need to beg for their love. Not anymore. You're better off without them. It stings, doesn't it? But it's also freeing. Because once you see the truth for what it is, once you realize that you were always just a tool, suddenly their absence isn't as painful anymore. In fact, it's almost a blessing. You're free now. You can stop being their emotional garbage bin. Stop fixing their brokenness. Stop being the person they leaned on when they didn't want to face their own demons. In this moment of realization, you have a choice. Will you keep believing in the lies they told you? Or will you choose to reclaim your power? The truth is, you never needed them in the first place. They were the ones who needed you. So don't mourn what you thought you had. Celebrate what you now know. And know this, you're better off without them. And once you realize that, you'll start to see the world through a different lens. Now that the dust has settled, the sting of realization is starting to fade. It's time for something deeper. Something that you can't unsee. The awakening. Let's be honest. You've been living in a fog. For so long, you let their version of love define you. You let their expectations cloud your judgment. And for a while, you even thought you needed them to feel whole. It's funny, isn't it? How easily we let someone else write the script of our lives. But now you're standing in the ruins of everything you thought was real, and something inside you shifts. There's a fire inside you, a tiny spark you forgot existed. You're waking up to the reality that for the longest time, you were chasing something that wasn't even real. That's a hard truth to accept, right? That the person you thought you couldn't live without was never the person you needed in the first place. It's not about being angry anymore. No, that's too easy. Anger fades, but the awakening is about something much deeper. It's about realizing that you were your own savior all along. You just didn't see it. They couldn't fix you. They didn't save you. You saved yourself every damn time. They were just there to distract you from the real fight. The one you should have been fighting with yourself. That realization is like a punch in the gut. It hits harder than any betrayal ever could. Because now, you can't unsee it. The truth is staring you in the face. You've been your own hero, your own villain, your own architect of your destiny. You were just too busy putting your faith in someone who never had the courage to build their own life. The awakening doesn't come with a fanfare or fireworks. There's no dramatic music playing in the background, no slow motion running towards the horizon. It's quiet. It's a whisper in the back of your mind that says, you were always enough. It's the moment you realize that you've been drowning, and the only thing holding you under the water was your own fear. Fear that you weren't strong enough. Fear that you couldn't make it on your own. But now you see it. You were always strong enough. And in that moment, you start to rebuild. Piece by piece. You're no longer waiting for someone else to come and fix you. You're doing it on your own terms. Every step forward is a step toward the version of yourself you buried under all the lies, under all the guilt, under all the promises you never made. Every day, you're rediscovering who you really are, without their approval, without their validation. You are free. You start to realize that you were never broken. You were just misunderstood. The version of you that they couldn't handle wasn't flawed. It was the version of you that they weren't ready to love. And that's okay, because now you're ready to love yourself. You start to see the power you had all along, and suddenly the world feels like it's at your feet. It's time to let go of all the guilt you've been carrying around. The guilt that they planted in you. The guilt that made you think you weren't good enough, smart enough, or worthy enough. It was all a lie. They lied to you. But that's the thing about lies. They only have power when you believe them. And now you know the truth. You are more than enough. The awakening doesn't stop here. This is just the beginning. You're on the path to something bigger than you ever thought possible. You're on the path to reclaiming your identity, your power, and your future. The past doesn't define you anymore. Those old beliefs that held you back, gone. The chains are broken and you're ready to run toward the future you deserve. So when you wake up tomorrow, don't just go through the motions. Step into it. Step into your power. You don't need anyone to tell you that you're enough. You already know. This is your awakening. So, now that the truth has hit you, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to wallow in self-pity? Or are you going to rise? The choice is yours and only yours. But let's be real. If you keep letting the past control you, you'll be stuck in a never-ending loop of disappointment. I get it. You're hurt, you're angry, and maybe you even feel like the world owes you an apology. But here's the thing. No one's coming to save you. No one's gonna step in and right all the wrongs. This is your story, and you're the only one who can change the narrative. It's time to break free from the chains of regret, anger, and resentment. The moment you let go of those, you start to see the truth. You were never the problem. The people who betrayed you, they were just a reflection of their own weaknesses, their own insecurities. They were never meant to stay in your life. You were meant for something greater. Now, here's where it gets good. You're not going to stay stuck in the wreckage of your past. Instead, You're going to rise from the ashes, stronger than ever. You're going to build yourself into a version of you that you never even thought possible. The pain you felt, it's now your greatest weapon. The betrayal you endured, it's your fuel. But here's the kicker. It's going to be hard. There will be moments when you doubt yourself. There will be days when you feel like giving up. That's the cost of growth. But if you want to transform, you have to embrace the discomfort. The harder it gets, the stronger you become. Remember, transformation is not a destination, it's a journey. It's not about becoming someone new, but about discovering who you truly are, the real you. The one who doesn't need anyone's approval. The one who stands tall in their own power. And when you embrace that, when you fully accept that, you'll realize that the best revenge isn't success. It's the freedom to be exactly who you are, no matter what anyone thinks. You've come this far. You've faced the betrayal, the heartbreak, the cold reality of people who only loved you when you were convenient to them. You've been broken, reassembled, and redefined. Now it's time to stand tall, to let the world see the force you've become. But here's the truth. The world doesn't care, and that's not a bad thing. You've spent your life looking for approval, waiting for validation, begging for acknowledgement. The truth is, no one is going to care until you decide that you do. That's the final test of transformation. The moment you stop waiting for permission to be who you are. So, what's next? You keep going. There's no finish line here. You're never done. Once you've stepped into your power, you realize that life is less about reaching a destination and more about continuously evolving. The transformation, it's just the beginning. What comes next is where the real work begins. Because now that you've rebuilt yourself, you'll face new challenges. There will be more betrayals, more pain, more moments when you question everything. And you know what? That's good. Because it means you're growing. It means you're doing something right. But this time, it's different. The old you would have crumbled. You would have let it break you. You would have allowed it to take you back to that place of doubt, fear, and insecurity. Not anymore. Now, when the storm hits, you stand tall. When the betrayal cuts deep, you use it as fuel to grow stronger. And here's the final word. The world doesn't owe you anything. That's the harsh reality. People will disappoint you. They will let you down. But the true power comes when you stop relying on others for your happiness. When you stop looking outside yourself for validation. You are your own source of strength. This is the final chapter of the old story. The one where you waited for someone to fix you. The one where you waited for the world to hand you a golden ticket. No more. You've taken your future into your hands. You've made the decision to no longer be the victim of your circumstances. So, what's next for you? The answer is simple. Everything. You are limitless now. You are unstoppable. Because you've learned what it truly means to be free. Not the freedom of escaping the world, but the freedom of standing in your truth, owning your power, and never apologizing for who you are. And that's the final word. This is the last time you let anyone tell you who you should be. This is the last time you let anyone make you feel small. You've found your voice. Now, go and use it.